Hey, welcome to another episode of God Yay or Nay. I'm here with Emma Stroud. Emma, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be on your pod.
I'm excited for this one. You have such a unique story, and we kind of come from similar worlds as well. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about this. Yeah, I don't know. You got your new book out coming out now. It's called Lessons from a Clown. It's out already, and yeah, you have such a cool, unique story. Maybe give us a little intro into your story and how you why you came into writing this book.
Oh, thank you. Well, I guess I've always been somewhere between sort of business and performing. And so I started off doing a theatre degree and then I went to drama school, but I'd also was an entrepreneur. So I ran businesses. And, over the last couple of years, I got back into that whole idea of like, maybe I could write a book. And about 2-3 years before that, I had just got back into clowning. So I did some clowning while I was at university. And clowns are generally misunderstood. I think it's really important that I say this. Clowns think the Shakespearean fool or the court jester, and that's kind of more the idea of clowns. So we're the people that observe life, and because we use comedy, we get away with saying things that other people perhaps don't. And it was a real journey going back into clowning after not having done it since I was at uni. And then it was like, okay, how could I put all of these different things together into a book? And working on it, it just sort of became really clear that actually I could co-write it with my clown Orange, and also do some stand-up voice in it, which I know you do. So there's a bit of stand-up, there's a bit of coaching, because I've been coaching CEOs and business leaders for about 20 odd years. And lo and behold, like 2-3 weeks ago, my book came out, Lessons from a Clown. So in a nutshell, in about a minute and a half, there is 25 years of quite a strange and eclectic life.
Yeah, and so I'm actually interested in this clowning because you were saying like it's more of the Shakespearean or court jester kind of thing. So like when you go to college to learn how to become a clown or learn the art form of clowning, can you give us a little like idea of like what they're teaching you?
Yeah, in essence, it's sort of discovering, like, we all have different parts of ourselves, right? So when you're up on stage, that's you up on stage. When you're doing the podcast, this is you as podcast. Or when you're being a friend or a son or a brother or a father or a husband or whatever else you do in your life, you're playing different parts of you. So it's still you, but you show different parts of yourself depending on where you're at. And then if you just take that one step further, in essence, clowns they're a part of us that perhaps we don't always play with, right? There's a part of us where you get to explore different sides of oneself. So at the moment, I've got 3 clowns that are within me as Emma Stroud. So I've got Orange, who's co-written my book. And Orange is definitely the part of me that sees the most wonder, that sees the most joy, So I kind of lose my skepticism when I'm in that place. And then as a result, when you're working out what does that feel like, you get to explore stuff from a different perspective. So it's just, in essence, what you learn when you learn how to clown is how do you find those different, perhaps untapped parts of you, and stuff that will come out of you will quite often be like the truth of what it is that you see. So it's not really complex. That's why a whole clown scene, if you're doing a clown scene, could be literally a clown trying to walk through a door. Because it's, something as simple that we do all the time for a clown can be quite overwhelming, because that's like, wow, there's so many different nuances. So the clown training really made me go, okay, I need to see more. I need to slow down. I need to observe and allow that part of me to come and play. I could talk about that for hours.
That's really cool. And I like that. It seems like you're almost channeling another like character inside you, like something
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not character is the right word, maybe it's like an essence, or what do you think?
It's literally that, an essence. It's, for me, Orange is the lightest and the most joyful part of me as Em Stroud. I'm an adult, I've got responsibilities, I've got, a child to look after, I have a business to run, all of that kind of stuff. But when I'm Orange, there's a freedom. And as Orange, so when I was doing a show with Orange, I'll always remember there was this woman that came into the audience and she sat down. Now, and I'm a Brit, right? And us Brits, we're not always the best at saying what we see or giving compliments very easily. But as Orange, no problem whatsoever. And Orange noticed that this woman had this necklace that matched her eyes. And Orange just literally was like, your necklace and your eyes genuinely make you sparkle. And this woman just beamed because it was so truthful and pure and almost childlike, not being a child, childlike. And then afterwards, at the end of the show, and I went out to the bar as you and had a drink and stuff. And she just went, I just want to say thank you, because no one's ever said anything like that or seen me in that way. And I was like, that is why I love this as a craft.
That is beautiful. I really like that. And so now with Orange, you're saying she's like very joyful, excited. Like these are the kind of like the essence that you try to bring up. So like, how do you go through the process of finding that character and finding those characteristics? And also, are you going into it first with the characteristics in your mind, or do they just kind of pop up?
No, they definitely emerge. And I think part of that, it's like when you're in any rehearsal space, right? Or any creative process, you have to allow space, and you have to allow space for things to emerge rather than trying to push, right? Because if you really try and push, it'd be like if you had let's take what we're doing right now. If you had a really, really fixed agenda on what we were going to do, this conversation wouldn't be happening in the way that it is. Because you're open to, right, okay, where I'm going to go with M, how's this going to manifest, all of these things. And you're kind of consciously thinking, but you're also present with me. That in my head is exactly the same about finding that part of me that happens to be a clown. So we had to kind of spend time, yes, doing exercises and exploring. And there's the craft of clowning. So if you're using your clown for comedy, there's things about learning like slapstick. There's learning about how do you walk into a space. But underneath all good comedy is massive tragedy. So you have to be brave, and you have to have the courage to go, this is me, completely unexposed. And what do you see? And how do I feel? And when you do that, suddenly these different parts of yourself can be shown and can come up. And then you play with it. And sometimes you try stuff and it goes really badly wrong, and then other times you try something and you're like, that's it. Oh, okay. And with Orange, a lot about Orange in particular was what Orange wears. So if you saw Orange, to start off with, you'd be like, oh, Orange looks fine. But actually Orange is wearing a coat that's just a bit too big for Orange, and Orange is wearing a hat that me as M would never wear. And some, but it kind of works, but it just doesn't. So an initial thing, it's not a sort of caricature. In Orange's mind, Orange looks amazing. Me as M Stroud would never wear it. It's a bright orange coat. I'd look ridiculous.
That's really cool. I like this idea. So what drawed you to coming into clowning then? Like what about it like really drawed you in?
I think there was something. So I've been an improviser for 20 odd years, and there was something about clowning. I did clowning when I was at uni. So I went over to Italy and studied commedia dell'arte, which is where lots of pantomime kind of characters come from. And I loved it. But I also found it when I was sort of 18, 19, I found it a little bit too exposing, because that whole idea about this is me at 19, I was like, I didn't know who I was. So I was like, I don't think I like this. I kind of moved away from it. And then in my sort of late 30s, I then was like, actually, and when you really want to do something, and there was a teacher that I'd been looking at her work from afar for a long time. So Angela De Castro, she's one of the top clowns in the world. And I just kept looking at it. And I was like, go on, Em. And then eventually, a few years ago, I went, right, okay, I'm going to apply for this course. And as soon as I did, and then I went there, clowning sort of made all of the different pieces that I had kind of come together. So it just really helped me go, okay, I can own this, because I want the world to play more. I want the world to laugh more and think more. That's kind of my mission in life. And clowning really allows me that space to play. So why would you not, right?
And so like with your book and even like how you speak a lot with different people, I've even saw your TED talk, which was awesome. Like when you say play, think, and learn, was it?
Laugh.
My bad, sorry. But like
so
if this is your mission statement kind of thing, and this is like what you want to bring out, like how do you get people to kind of do that? What is like your process?
Good question. So I truly believe that if the world laughs more and thinks more and plays more, the world will be a better place. And those three things, I think, connects us as humans, right? Regardless of where we're from, what culture we're from, what religion we follow or don't follow. And so how I do that at the moment is every piece of work that I do, whether that's my book, whether it's my film that I'm making, whether it's coaching, are sort of underscored by all of those things. And what I'm launching next year is we're going to actually create an app and a movement all to do with laugh thinking playing. So I'll be getting different practitioners that are brilliant at laughing. So comedians and other people that make people laugh. And also, what does laughter really mean? And how do we access it more so that there's more space of it at work and things like that? And the same with thinking, the same with playing. So in essence, I've got great, well-planned dominations of like an app, that's going to be my second book. And then from a sort of cultural perspective, I'm going to be setting up a business where other practitioners will be going in and working with big corporates to actually go and sort of go, right, okay, this is what we're going to do. And how do we laugh more at work? How do we think more at work? And how do we play more at work? And we'll give them a framework of how to do that. Framework makes it sound really dull. It wouldn't be called a framework. It'll just be a thing.
No, I like this a lot. And the one thing you said is about like trying to access that laughter, like, and access that joy. That's one thing I'm learning a lot in life. Especially as a performer as well. Like you said before, childlike, like that's, I think, is such a big thing for a performer. And like I'm trying to like up my creativity right now, and I'm trying to learn a lot about this stuff. And it's true. It's like coming back to that childlike way of just being, and like how you said play. It's like sometimes you just got to listen to yourself and like look at how you play in life. Like, how do you like to play, and like how do you like to be silly, and like invite that into your life. And when you start doing that, it's a different energy you're giving off, and like people feel that. So I really do like how you said that access, like, and it seems like this is something you're trying to get people to access that more, like that.
Yeah, I love that word. And you're right, because I think as adults, and especially for people that aren't performers, I think those of us that are lucky enough to perform, we are already sort of in that place where we're willing to play, because every time we get up on stage, right, you're playing. Like you're doing stand-up, it's play. Even doing a podcast, it's kind of play, there's that. But I think for a lot of adults that haven't done that training, I think play seems like something you do maybe on a Friday night when you go and have a couple of drinks, and it's not part of life. As adults, we're told, well, no, you've got to be serious now. You're an adult, you've got children, you've got a house, you've got responsibility. Come on, time to grow up. And I'm not suggesting that life sometimes isn't very serious and we have things to do that are important. But what I am suggesting is I wonder how life can be if we let ourselves play during those times. Just access, as you say, I love that word access. It's that thing of like, how do we access that bit so that there can be a levity to how we're feeling, rather than like, here's me at work, now I've gone home, now I've got the kids, and now I get to play with some friends. It's like, we don't have to do it that way, right?
And it does, like, it makes I think it does, it makes your life like it brings a lot more joy. And like when you allow that in, like it grows, like, because it's like this is like a lifestyle almost, right?
I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? There's the very famous book about the 5 regrets of the dying, right? And one of them is always, I wish I'd let myself be happier.
Yeah, that's a sad one. And you're right. And it's like, it's kind of like I think it is like a process where you start realizing like allowing yourself to be happier is the big thing. Like if a lot of people just don't allow it, you have to invite that in yourself.
Absolutely.
No, that's interesting. So you did mention improv as well. This is something I'm a huge fan of. Like, and I actually started doing improv before I did comedy as well. So I did it for a few years. Nothing like nothing too serious, but it is something that got me into the comedy game. But how do you say to people who've never tried improv, or not even performers at all? Like I've heard you recommend this to people as well. Like, why would you recommend improv to people who never do any kind of performance?
Improv is the biggest and the best way that I've come across of helping adults who think that they're not creative or that they're not fun access that part of themselves. And so improv, what it does, the biggest thing is, especially for those people that are massive overthinkers, is that you can't overthink, right? You can't overthink improv, because as soon as you've done it, you'll then move on to the next piece. And improv really treats us, or teaches us rather, to enjoy being present and enjoy the process and not get fixed on the outcome. And as soon as you sort of go, oh, and I'm doing this, and this could be bad, but it also could be good, and you realize you're not out of, you're out of control of that, suddenly the world opens up. I remember a friend of mine, she was so anti-improv. She was so anti it. She was like, I'm going to hate it. I'm not funny. I'm like, it's not about being funny. I don't like thinking on my feet. I like to plan. I'm a prep person. She's an engineer by trade. She's like, I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. And I was like, well, don't. And then eventually she kind of got to a point. She's like, oh, maybe I'll give it a go. And I said, just go for 2 hours to a really good basic beginner's improv class. And if you hate it, never go back. But you then know that you've tried it. And eventually she was like, okay, I'll go. And then she rang me up as she was walking out. She was like, it's the best thing I've ever done. Best thing. And I was like, why? And she said, because it didn't matter. And it didn't matter because I was just in that moment. And she's like, I cannot remember the last time I felt like I was in the moment. And she said that only happened for like 5 seconds. But that, she said, and she's now gone off and done loads of improv courses because she's like, it's brilliant. And that's helped her. She said it helped her with her confidence. It's helped her at work. And more importantly, it's actually helped her feel far more grounded in lots of different situations that used to make her really stressed. She has no desire to be a performer, but the skills of improv have helped her in her life. That's why I'm such a big fan of it.
Yeah, it's and it's such a cool thing. Like I know if you live in big cities, especially, there's always improv classes going on somewhere, and it's becoming more popular where people are using it the exact same way you're talking about, and it's so good for people. And just mentioning that, get into the present moment. It's the hardest thing to do in the modern life because we're all so busy, and like the overthinking, that's such a thing in our I think with our culture now, especially with our phones and stuff, we're constantly have so much shit running around our heads. So that is nice just to open up and just let it be. I know you also have like a big interest in mental health. How did you like to incorporate that into your like book and your work as well?
I think a lot of my work is autobiographical, because it's the story that I have is my truth, right? And that's the only story that I can tell because that's been my lived experience. And some of my experiences of my earlier years were perhaps not ideal. And as a result, I had some real mental health challenges. If I go back sort of 10 years, I was really suicidal and got to the point where I was standing on the edge of a train platform. And So I really remember that moment where I made the decision to take a step back. And that moment, as I sort of look back on it with the benefit of hindsight, was, genuinely life-changing for me. And I know that for a lot of people, it might not get as severe as ended up being, very seriously going to take your own life. But for a lot of people, especially, post, with where we're at with COVID and, the restrictions that we've all had and everything else, as you said, the busyness that we have, I see more and more people really struggling with mental health. And so for me, if I can share my story, and I weaved in some of my story through my book, Lessons from a Clown, and in my film, that's all autobiographical. If I can share some of my stories and some of my learnings and what I've done, then I hope that other people can find their own truth. And then if they find their other truth, then they might go and talk to somebody or go and get some help or talk to a mate or whatever it might be that they need to do. And for me, I couldn't do the work I did without acknowledging that in order to laugh and think and play, you have to get, there's a process in order to allow that, to access that. And if you're feeling really shit, it's really hard to laugh and play, probably because you're overthinking. So I like to, align myself with different people that have the expertise and the wisdom to then hopefully help people overcome whatever mental health challenges they have. And I think the more that people in the public eye talk about it, the easier it is for somebody that isn't in the public eye to talk about it and to go and do whatever they're doing.
That's that's really good. Do you think your performance and like improvisation, clowning and stuff like that, do you think all of that kind of helped with like overcoming your mental health challenges a little bit?
Oh, hugely, because what it does is, it allows a space for me to explore those other parts of me, both the happy parts and then also the challenging parts, in a place that was safe. And for me, I've been in sort of performance, since I was 16. This is my understanding of how I navigate the world. I'm not suggesting that everybody else should suddenly go and become a clown or perform, but again, because I am a performer and I am a creative, no doubt this is why you do the podcast. It's this thing of, we need our creators to be honest and to be open, and not trying to be some sort of glossy facade of what they think the world needs them to be, because that then only creates more and more problems, right?
And I love that you said you want your creatives to be honest and open. And this has always been kind of like a continuous process for me as a stand-up comedian, is like becoming more honest and open. And it feels like it's just a becoming, it comes like over and over again. Like I have to keep going down different paths to become more honest, more open. Like, do you have like kind of tips to like allow creatives or even anybody just to, like, how they can become more honest and open and like just themselves, their work, anything?
Yeah, I think one of the big changes for me was getting more used to hearing your voice in all senses of it. And one of the best ways of doing that was, there's a great book I quite often talk about, called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
I'm reading it right now.
He's doing it now. That's it. There you go, kids. Listen to this.
I'm on week 5 right now.
Oh wow, well done. Well done. And don't you think with the morning pages? So the morning pages, for your listeners, in case you don't know, it's in essence, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you sit and you write 3 pages. You don't write it so that you can read it back. You just write it. And when you get used to hearing your voice, and sometimes you wake up and you're like, I do not know why I'm writing this. This is the most boring thing I've ever written. I don't know why I'm writing this. This is annoying. And other times you'll be like, oh, I need to go and have a coffee. I'm really tired. And then occasionally there'll be stuff where something will pop out, right? And you'll be like, oh. But just getting used to hearing your voice, and this better because you're actually writing it. I've done it about 3 times. Just accessing that before we start listening to other people, going on Instagram, absorbing other people's stuff into our heads. That for me was completely life-changing.
That is so amazing. And with the morning pages, that's so true. And like you said, every morning you wake up, you write 3 pages, and it's just get it out, whatever it is. Like you said, sometimes it's just like trash you're writing, which is fine, but this is the whole process. It's just to get out that gunk every day. And you're right, stuff pops out of you, and you want to get that out before any other voices you allow in your head. So this week I was just on was the one where we have that media deprivation or media deprivation.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anybody who doesn't know the book, there's 12 weeks, and every week you get different kind of things to help your creativity flow. And this one was like, no media, no reading, like don't let other voices in your head this week. And I failed like the first 3 days, like really badly. I like made it like halfway through the day, and then like there was like so much anger in me that was coming out. Yeah, not very good. And then by the end of the week, I finally had it down pat where I wasn't looking at anything. But you know what, there was like a deep sadness, a deep anger that was coming out. And I honestly, with the morning pages and just writing during the day, because that's the other thing, when you do these morning pages, to write during the day is so much easier, just because
my word,
yeah,
so much easier.
Yeah, you got rid of that resistance first thing in the morning, and now you can just go back to your. So like I was just writing during the day, and like I really came down to, like, I really got like a lot of stuff come out of me that I was like, these are pressures I'm putting on myself, or ideas that I have that are really making, like, they're putting like a deep anger in me, a deep sadness in me, and it's also helping as a block. It's creating blocks in me, like especially creatively and energetically as well. And it was good. And one thing I noticed, and I know I've seen you talk about this too on your TED talk, it's like a lot of those blocks were very just like what I expect from society, what I think I should have done with my
Mm,
own life, like what I expect of myself, and just being really just too hard on myself. And
mm,
and it's like a lot of those kind of regrets and shit like that are in me. And yeah, I just I need to pay more attention to those and just kind of give myself a little bit of that self-love to be like, you can't change shit. And like you can't have unrealistic expectations of yourself, and you can't compare yourself to other people. Like this like all of that like was causing this like anger and
mm.
sadness in me. It's crazy.
I hear you, and I think it's, and I think it's so humbling that because you allowed yourself that space to really go there and to follow that process that Julia Cameron created, it's amazing what we can start to notice about ourselves and what's lacking, because as you say, life's really busy, and there's that bit of, I think for all of us, it's like, what is it that we're all seeking? What is it that we're all looking for? Right. And for me, it's like we could all be on like 10 different treadmills, and as long as you get off the treadmill sometimes and you check that the treadmills are still the treadmills that you want to be on and they're at the right pace, or just to your left, there could be an amazing field. You don't even need to be on a treadmill. But
Mm,
the only way that we do that is that we have to slow ourselves down and allow ourselves that, because then, like you were just saying, then you can feel the anger, then you can feel the sadness, because otherwise it's all just being pushed down with other stuff. And it's like, actually, let's just let it out. And then when you do that, then it's amazing what stuff can appear, right?
And yeah, no, that process of in the artist way is like pretty impressive.
Mm,
And how many, you said you've done it 3 times?
yeah.
Oh, nice. All right.
Because each time you do it, you get a different experience because you're in a different headspace. So,
Mm,
and like you say, there's exercises each week. I never tried to do all of the exercises each week. I chose the one that I liked the most and the one that terrified me the most. So I've always done different ones, but because you're, as a human, we evolve, right? You always get different stuff from it. Well, that's been my journey with it.
yeah. And it's funny when it's like going after the stuff that terrifies you the most, eh?
Mm.
And I guess when you
Mm-hmm.
went into clowning, that's probably a little bit kind of something that you were doing, because from
Yeah.
what I remember you saying, like clowning was something that was terrifying for you to bring other parts of you out, right?
Exactly, and it's this thing, and I think for those of us that do comedy, I dabble and do bits and bobs of stand up, but I mainly sort of make theatre comedy. It's when you do that, there's a reason why in drama there's the comedy and the tragedy, right? Because they go hand in hand. And so many people that find comedy and end up doing it as a job, there's a reason why we want to be the one that makes other people laugh, because quite often there can be a mask, and quite often that's where we get a sort of a sense of ourselves. And that's not for everybody, I'm not suggesting, but for me it's that thing of, and I even use this line in my play, it's, funny as a shield, how do people not see? And for me, going into clowning was actually about unpicking that a little bit and then still allowing myself to be funny, but being funny being all of me, if that makes sense.
Okay, funny as a shield. Can you say that again?
Yeah, so funny is a shield, because I think for me, because I can make people laugh, right? Or I'd like to think I can. I think it's quite easy to go into that mode of like, well, if I'm funny, then you won't really see me and you won't ask me any deep questions about me
And
because
it's
I'm
like
making you laugh.
and yeah, so it's like your mask. It's your kind of,
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. Okay. And yeah, so sometimes you need to even like, because if you use that too much, it almost becomes a crutch, and you're, yeah, I get that
exactly.
completely. Yeah, then
Exactly.
and you have to get into those deeper levels of exposing yourself, and yeah, that could be like
Yeah.
that could, and like I can understand like in the drama world and in the clowning world, you guys must have to be like very you have to make it a very safe place for people to expose themselves like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, but it's about, like everything, we'll only ever do what we're ready to do.
Mm.
It's like, us humans, like years ago, I trained as a hypnotherapist, right? So that's right, I'm a clown that can hypnotize people, but
Ha
us,
ha 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 ha
how
ha
to
ha.
scare a bunch of people really easily. But within hypnotherapy, there's a reason why hypnotherapy will only work if you truly, truly want to change your pattern of behavior or your thought process, right? Because your unconscious mind will always protect you. So you will only ever do anything when you are ready to truly do stuff. And so that's the same as like if you're exploring anything new, whether that's creativity, whether that's performing, whether it's going to get a new job, us human beings, we won't do anything unless we're fully 100% there. So that's why when quite a few people say, oh, hypnotherapy didn't work for me, I'm like, is it because you actually didn't want to quit smoking? I didn't do that very often as my job. And they'd be like, yeah, no, I don't really want to quit. It's that type of thing, right?
Oh, okay. So like, let's say if I was really trying to quit, or like so what kind of hypnotherapy were you doing then? Like, were you like, because if it wasn't quitting smoking, like what kind of changes were you trying to make with people?
Well, I did it because I find language fascinating. So years ago when I trained as a coach, so I coach business people and have done for years. I was really curious about what hypnotherapy could potentially bring to me. I never wanted to be a practicing hypnotherapist, but what it taught me was understanding and helping me understand language patterns and how people say things, then help me find the right question to get them to change without having to put them into trance or anything like that.
Oh, that is very fascinating. So like just by like listening to people, you can really see what they're like. So you're the patterns of their language, like you're saying it reveals like a lot.
Yeah, because you can hear, if you really hear. And so there's always been a thread through all my work, right? Because clowning is about really hearing. It's about being really present and seeing what's going on, right? With hypnotherapy and understanding that we tell ourselves stories. We tell ourselves, oh, I've never been very good at football, for example, soccer. I've never been very good at soccer, says an adult. And they say that about 3 or 4 times in a conversation. That in that 3 or 4 times, they are doing what's called an embedded command, right? So they're telling themselves they're not very good at soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I kind of pick that up, it's like, when did you learn that you aren't very good at soccer? Huh? And suddenly they're like, oh, it's because I wasn't very good at school. Okay. And then you can unpick it. And then they're like, oh, so maybe I could give it a go. That is a kind of very simple example.
Okay. And so because like just how you said that, I'm actually kind of thinking of myself, like I've actually catch myself doing that a lot. And I actually did it this weekend where when I was doing my shows out at this club, I remember like the one comedian was just really good at crowd work, like just like going up and talking with people. And I remember I said to him like probably 3 or 4 times this week, like, oh, I'm just not good at crowd work. So like, like what when you catch yourself and you see like, oh, I'm making this kind of like embedded thing inside of me, what are ways to kind of like let go of that?
Well, it's firstly, the fact you've noticed it already means that it's going to change, right? And
Okay.
quite often people won't even know that they say these things. So it's kind of one of those things that you quite often need to ask your friends and your family, like, what do I say about myself that's not very positive? Because it's quite often you just let it out without realizing that you're saying it. And then if you ended up saying to yourself of like, crowd work is something that I'm working on because it's not my natural skill set. Can you hear how that's really different?
Yeah.
It's not, you're not saying that it's something that you want to get better at, but rather than going, I'm just not very good at that, telling yourself I'm not very good at it, you can kind of go, it's something I'm going to work on. So I'm just going to work on my crowd set. And then with that person who was really good at it, spending a bit of time going, talk me through what actually is your process. How do you do it? So you get somebody to break something down, because what he finds or she finds really easy, they might never have gone, oh, I do this, and then in my head I've got this, and then I do that. And then you can see that everything is a skill, right? You can pull from everybody, but sometimes people do stuff on so autopilot that they don't even realize it's a skill. Because one thing that you find really easy, somebody else. So like, for example, you're clearly good at asking good questions on a podcast. That guy or girl might not be so good. So it's about pulling out skills, right?
I love that. No, and that's really good because it is funny. Like I guess from hypnotherapy, you must like understand this a lot, but like it is kind of funny when you tell that stuff to yourself all the time, like
yeah,
your unconscious mind, because doesn't your unconscious mind actually like want to prevent you then? Like if you're telling yourself, I'm not good at crowd work, I'm not good at soccer, I'm not good at whatever, like isn't your unconscious mind going to like kind of give you a fear response when you're like when you're going to be
exactly.
around those things, right?
Exactly. And that's on a very baseline level, you know, that's in essence how phobias get built. I don't like snakes. Something happens with a snake and it's not very nice. And then you say, I really don't like snakes. And then you see it and then it builds and then it builds. And then that's how a phobia gets created. Like when you're a kid, you're not scared of snakes. So at some point as an adult or a young kid, you make the decision, this is what I don't like. And then that then gets then built on and built on and built on and can be something either really positive or something really negative, which then has to be challenged, right? And that's the piece about language. And this is why I think the morning pages are so great, because we don't very often spend enough time paying attention to how we talk to ourselves and also how we show up at things, right? So it's slowing everything down. Doesn't mean you don't have lots of energy. It doesn't mean you're not funny. It doesn't mean you're not loving life. But if you slow stuff down and go, how am I talking about myself? Or how am I talking to myself? Or what do I tell myself that's true? And what do I tell myself that perhaps was true that no longer is, or that no longer serves me? You know, that's where magic can happen.
And so do you believe that you can kind of implant ideas or like maybe affirmations into your unconscious? Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
And is this something you use?
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I think I quite often use little phrases about, you know, like anything's possible. I think I've got a few sort of little ones that I do say quite a lot, you know, and it's that thing of, it's about allowing. And like, for me, it's been like, you know, yeah, I've got this, you know, and things like that. And if I catch myself going, oh, that's a bit scary, I don't really know what I'm doing now. Then I have to kind of go, okay, why is this scary to me? And where does the scariness feel? Where am I feeling it in my body? Okay, it's in my stomach. Okay, let's just breathe. Okay, am I actually scared of, what am I scared of? So when I notice that I'm scared, which I do, because of course I get scared, you know, I get nervous, I'm human. It's then just, again, slowing stuff down and then go, right, okay, right, is this actually true? Am I still scared of this? Or is there a different way that I could think about it? And as soon as you kind of break it down, and I saw this lovely, lovely image last week, and it was like, what's really stressing you out right now? It's like asking the question, will it really matter in 3 months' time? Will it really matter in 3 weeks' time? Will it really matter in 3 days' time? Finally, will it really matter in 3 hours' time? And as soon as you see it, and it was like big sort of bubbles on it, like, so it was like bubbles. As soon as you sort of see anything that you're worried about or stressed about, suddenly there's a distance, and then you feel different. And if you feel different, then you can change how you show up. And if you change how you show up, you're far more likely to get the outcome you want.
That is so good. And I like how you said also, when you have that fear response, like look in your body and try to see, because like every especially when you get into like kind of meditation and these kind of stuff, you'll notice like all your fears, all those responses, anxieties, they have a feeling in the body too. And it's so helpful to, like you said, slow down and put that attention on like, hey, where in the body is this? Like kind of see where that fear goes in your body, and like it's the best way to dissipate it and tend to deal with it and really like ask yourself questions about it. It's so cool. No, I love that. All right, Emma, this is so much fun. I got one more question for you. It's a question of the podcast. So
go on.
Emma Stroud, God, yay or nay?
I think I have to say yay.
Yeah. All right. I like how you thought about that too. What was the hesitation?
I have to say, well, because I don't, it's one of those really interesting things for me. It's like, the word is the word that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
God, yeah. Whereas if this was called, don't call it this because this would sound terrible, but like, higher power or higher thing, yay or nay, it's not got the same ring. Don't do that. Then I would definitely have been like, yay. But I think for me, it's this whole idea of, God as a construct, as in that word, I slightly struggle with, because it has connotations to religion for me, and that sort of side. But if you are saying, yeah, higher power, I'd be like, yeah, but I can't not say yay, because that links to higher power. And I believe that we're all here for good and wonderment and things like that. So yay, I'm going to end it with a yay.
Ha, 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 ha. That is so awesome. Emma, this was so much fun. Thank you for coming on. So tell my people about your book, where they can get it, and your podcast as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, thank you. It's been lovely. It's lovely chatting. My book is called Lessons from a Clown, and it is available on Amazon. And for the next couple of months, it'll be available on all good bookshops. But right now, it's just on Amazon. So Lessons from a Clown. Or if you don't like Amazon, which I know lots of people do, if you go on my website, emmastroud.london, that's emmastroud.london, and you send me an email, I will send you a copy. So if you don't have an Amazon account, there is that way already. And then my podcast is called Clowning Around. It is the podcast to make people laugh and think. And it's me and one of my other clowns, Barbara. We interview different people, everything from clowning around therapy to clowning around rugby to clowning around entrepreneurship, business consciousness, you name it. I've probably clowned around it. So there'll probably be an episode. There's nearly 100 episodes. So I'm sure there'll be an episode for everyone listening. But yeah,
Sweet.
so thanks for having me. That's me.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Oh, wait 1 sec.